Hey guys, what's up and welcome to another episode of the TheGoodCastShow. Now our guest today is Datuk Kamil Othman. He's a veteran leader in Malaysia's creative and cultural industries. He previously served as the chairman of the National Film Development Corporation Malaysia, FINAS, where he focused on strengthening industry structures, expanding training and capacity building programs, and positioning Malaysian films for global markets. With decades of experience in arts, administration, policy, and creative leadership, Datuk Kamil has been at the forefront of shaping conversations about how Malaysia's film and creative sectors can grow sustainably, competitively, and inclusively. So today, we'll be exploring his journey, his vision for the industry, as well as his reflections on his challenges and opportunities facing Malaysian cinema. So please welcome Datuk Kamil Othman. Thank you, sir, for being on this podcast. It's such a pleasure.
All right, thank you for having me here.
No worries.
And after that intro, I'm not sure whether we can manage some expectations. No problems.
No problem.
Yeah.
Take it with a pinch of salt. So let's start with this. I think a lot of people may not understand what exactly is FINAS all about. Oftentimes it's looked as a grant giver. Others look at it as a body that monitors Malaysian film, the censorship board. So what exactly is the mandate of FINAS?
Yes, FINAS has always been seen as the censor board too.
Yes.
And during my tenure there, 2014 to 16, and even recently as chairman, we always have to say we do not censor films.
You don't censor
No,
films?
because that comes under the censorship board, which is under KDN.
Oh, okay.
We are under the Ministry of Communications.
Okay.
So meaning we are more focused on the development of the industry per se. So basically we say your imagination, there's no limit to your imagination. The sky's the limit. So make movies. But later, after you've made your movies, the censorship board will have a look at it.
And then the sky's the
decide,
limit.
Right. So, okay, that's just to sum up in a very sort of
But interesting
manner.
you say that, just to go a bit off tangent a bit. How does then FINAS monitor creativity or even grow our local creativity when the censorship is handled by another ministry that works on a different set of guidelines?
Well, it's not the most ideal situation, but FINAS has always have a very good relationship with the censorship board. And in many cases, we would refer to them when we receive scripts that are off orbit a little bit. But I suppose the best way to describe the relationship is something like this. If you are applying for grants from FINAS or any other incentives, your script must be conform to certain things.
Okay.
And certain things is no 3Rs, no anything, stuff like that. However, if you are making your film using your own money entirely, we will have no control over the final product until it is sent to the censorship board.
I see. Okay.
So that's how we play around with the situation, with the incentives, right? So most people who ask for grants, we'll make sure that the grants we are giving is on stories that are in compliance. Compliance here, okay, I've got to touch this a bit because this is a good subject to ponder on, that the imagination being the sky the limit. The sky's the limit. Yeah. We always like to say that if you're a creative person, there are many ways to skin the cat.
Okay.
So you don't have to make things so direct, knowing very well what are the conditions and the policies in the country. We are still in a very nascent stage in that sense, because people can get sensitive over many, many things, even if it's not intended to. So if we take that into account, a creative person can be as good as George Orwell, who wants to say a lot of things about the situation in his country at that time, and he wrote Animal Farm.
Yeah.
Or some people can use animation or cartoon stories, using animation to actually say the same thing.
Yeah.
And I always like to recall in the early days, a lot of the creative people that wants to say many things about their government, about their day-to-day, but they couldn't say it directly. So they would make amazing films like Stalker, which is science fiction, or another film that I always refer to is a Russian film called Hard to Be a God.
Okay.
Where through cinema, they say the same things, but without being so direct.
Okay, so being subtle about it.
Right. I mean, this is what creativity is all about, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I can understand the sentiments of a lot of creative people here who says, yes, why should there be barriers? That is correct in a way too. When there is freedom of expression, there is this thing also called the need to be responsible about what expression are you having the freedom to talk about with in the first place.
Okay.
So it's a bit
But
like
has that come at the cost of the success or the appeal of our films in the outside markets?
well, there are some independent filmmakers who would make their films the way they wanted it, regardless, and they would bypass the normal system simply because they do not ask for money from FINAS, and they have their own distribution network. So they would go and submit their films for festivals
Yeah.
and stuff like
And
that.
go that route and then
and
get the
go
appeal.
and go that
yeah.
route, yes.
But isn't it sad though? I mean, when I was interviewing Justin, and I know we've gone a bit off there, but we will come back, I promise. But when I was interviewing Justin, all I could think of is so sad that this guy's films has won 3 awards in different film festivals. And it sort of has to get that foreign tap on the shoulder or before it's accepted here. Isn't there's something wrong with that system,
Well,
right, Dato?
Yeah, there are cracks in the system.
Oh,
I must admit there are cracks in the system, but it is not something that we do not know, or at least I knew about it way back in 2014, 15, 16, and I think the current management too are aware because I've had many discussions with them, and they are aware. But I think the environment we're talking about right now is that there are too many things at play at this moment that needs to be somehow connected. And they are not something that requires a traumatic approach. Why I call traumatic is that certain things that have been going on for years, to try and change it, no matter how you want to defend the changes required, takes a little bit of time. It's a bit like what IBM used to say, the impossible just takes a little bit longer. And now, coming back to what we were talking
How
about.
long, Dato? It's been a long time.
Well, I think given the current environment, I believe that the way that I have observed the latest policies, the revision to the FINAS Act, and provided the implementation is as per the aspirations and objective of the new revised Act, and with the help of the right people, I think we can move towards that.
You were trying to push for a lot, and I just want to give the audience an idea. So you wanted to improve administrative processes with FINAS, particularly grant applications, training systems, and marketing efforts.
Yes.
You prioritize independent filmmakers. Now that's amazing.
Yes.
I love indie industry as well. You emphasize training and capacity building. You encourage creators to think about international audience and exports. You said script development and co-production partnerships are key ways to elevate the film industry. So you were wanting a lot, but there's one thing about FINAS that we have to discuss because that's something that's always talked about and always brought up on, especially on this podcast, because I do a lot of filmmakers. One of it is there are loopholes or lack of clarity in how FINAS funds are allocated. So is the FINAS funding model holding back Malaysian cinema?
I would like to say that yes, we have received comments like that.
Wow,
The thing is, when you try to address matters like this, you would come up with what we call the mindset environment. The mindset environment here means the independence is not really there to move into the areas that we would really like to move into. For example, we get our money from the ministry. FINAS is a statutory body and we get our money, the money for the grants and all that.
Okay.
So we have to comply with the requirements, not just from the film industry itself or what we think should be for the film industry, but we also have to comply with the bigger picture with the taxpayers' money that comes from the ministry and which comes from, of course, the Ministry of Finance. So basically, if I talk about a film, FINAS by itself can really say this film is good. It has the potential. And then later, it has to be assessed also by another team, the ones who are going to decide where the money is going to. So that is where we may find a little bit of a discrepancy, simply because the way we look at cinema now at the 98% of the population level, not the 2% who are really in the industry.
Okay.
Is this. Films must make money. So you would go for the mainstream. You would love it when a film becomes, 60 million, 70 million, Mat Kilau. They love it. That's how the 98% understands what this industry is all about. So when we talk about the other parts, about the people who had problems getting the loan and all that, I believe, this is a personal view, that when seen within the context of millions of box office returns, it somehow clouds the way you approach this as a creative industry. It is a bit like the Beatles going to Decca Records with their demo, and somebody in Decca said,
won't amount to anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But you are talking about your answer seems to say that it's a focus on mainstream to
Yes.
to maximize ROI.
Yes.
But other people are saying different. They are saying that the funding is oftentimes abused, and this I've heard personally myself. And when it's granted, it's given to a fixed group of people. There are even suggestions of like cartels within FINAS and all that. Their favoritism, biasness. Did you notice this when you were chairman of FINAS?
As chairman, no. But when I was the Director General, 2014, when we receive comments like that, we try to do what we call an internal domestic sort of thing. And then after a while, I realized that the best way to address this, instead of becoming a witch finder general, so it's not a witch hunt, it's best to look at the SOP. But the problem is that 2 years in FINAS sometimes makes it difficult to continue on.
But even you said on the newspapers, you said that you wanted checking, or you were questioning why is it that FINAS is funding movies that aren't doing well in the box office?
Yes, we wanted to do postmortems. I mean, this is a natural thing. Here I've got to explain. When that suggestion came up, suddenly it becomes a personal thing. Why are we going after people? We are not.
But it's taxpayer money.
Yes.
You have to. Accountability.
When I invest in something, and that's on the basis that the person who is asking for the money is telling me that they have done their homework and it should be able to give returns and so on. And then finally it didn't. The idea is not to penalize you. The idea is to say what went wrong. I was more interested in the what went wrong and what can be corrected. But trying to do that in FINAS was a bit difficult because for some reason, everyone takes it personally.
Is it because they are involved?
Well, this is what gives me the suspicion that if you think that it becomes personal and not something there, then what is there to hide? I mean, I'm just a simpleton.
No.
I'm just looking at it from a typical
Objective
auditor.
manner. Yeah,
Objective manner.
Yeah.
So that was where it has given rise to the fact that when you think it's personal, you hear, I mean, I'm generalizing it, of course, for things like audit. I'm asking, wouldn't you like to know what went wrong?
Of course, yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah. If you
Right.
were part of FINAS, you're the hierarchies, the higher
could
ups.
be the advertising and promotion, could be, all sorts of things. And the whole idea was to share it with other people. Just like we also share information like why some films could get funding from 6, 7 countries. And it goes right under the radar, that kind of thing. So the indirect answer to your question is that to find the evidence and all that will be a waste of time.
Then why not we go the other way? Because of sort of choking the source of all this. I think that one of the key sources is definitely the fact that our film industry, number one, this whole grant giving. I hate this grant giving because it oftentimes is abused.
Yes.
Why not FINAS go into avenues of perhaps setting up a proper film lab in this country, being an incubator for films? Why not do it that way?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be a better way?
Yes, I would think so, because what you indicated was exactly what we were trying to do too, which was because it's a grant, it's support. It is support money because you already make an effort to look for money elsewhere and you just need maybe another 40-50%. So to me personally, that's what grants are for, to give you a start. It is not a financing situation. Now, the best thing that has happened of late is that a lot of these companies, most companies, are now utilizing the Film in Malaysia incentive. It's not about asking for grants anymore. Film in Malaysia incentive simply means get your own money, shoot the film with your own money, produce it until it is ready for delivery. And then after that, you have your expenses audited, and the government will give you back 30% of what you have spent.
Oh, wow.
That is FIMI. It's called Film in Malaysia Incentive.
Oh, that's very good.
It applies to both. Now, FIMI was one of those solutions we were doing even at that time. We were advocating it. It was only implemented about 2009 or 10, I think, with Iskandar when Pinewood came to Johor.
Okay.
That was when it was fully implemented. But prior to that, we were advocating for that because it brings in a new discipline into the way people make films.
Budgeting.
Yes.
Okay.
That means you make your own film. You decide. And then we will give you the incentives based on what you have spent. And you have delivered the film to us. So the grant system failure was one of the reasons why FIMI was vehemently championed.
In your time, were you said that when you tried to approach this grant giving the issues,
Right.
there was kickback.
Yes, there was a kickback because you see, there was a lot of misunderstanding simply because people were confused. People here, I mean the
FINAS people.
Industry people, FINAS sometimes couldn't make the difference, couldn't distinguish between the financing and the support part.
So let's move on to another part, because this ties back to what you were trying to do, which is you talked about training, capacity building. Is it true that what people say, in your opinion, that the quality of Malaysian films aren't good? That is why they don't do well locally. Is it the problem of Malaysians ourselves? We are more favorable to foreign productions as opposed to our own. What's the reason? What's the disconnect?
What you have just said are partly the reasons too. But if you ask me personally, I feel that too many people who do not know how to make films are in the industry. You want to become a lawyer, you got to go through LLB, CLP. You want to become a doctor, of course. So as a profession, this industry, I think, is too open at this moment.
Okay.
I think. Because where are the real McCoys here? The real people who wants to make films? We should be mining competitions at universities, convocation, final year works. That is where I was actually pushing for FINAS to be present to see the talent. And part of the prize that they get, other than the trophy, will be a grant to continue on. And I was always in favor of short films, and there's a reason for that. Short films actually allows the person to show the style of what kind of images that he is most familiar or which he is good at. And then later, that short film will be the basis by which he asks for grants from outside Malaysia.
I see. Okay.
So I found that the way that I was trying to handle the funding system, the grant system, was, I think, misunderstood. Because the majority simply wanted the funds at that time to be funding only the mainstream films, the ones that go through GSC, TGV type, right? So just a case in point, every year FINAS give permits on average about 60 permits for films to be made. How many can people remember? So
one or two.
if I look at the permits alone, people are making films. And if I look at the grants that have been given out for development and all that, plenty are being made. But at the end of the day, we can only be proud of about maybe 4 or 5 films a year. And the public, the 98%, will only remember about 3 or 4. Like if I were to ask you now, 2025, what were the big boys? I mean, the big ticket items, right?
I think that
Blood Brothers.
Oh yeah, Blood Brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, Blood Brothers.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there was an animation. What Papa?
Agent Papa Zola is December.
Oh, December. Okay.
Still making money.
Still
now.
making money. Yeah.
So we will only remember a few. But remember, most of these films actually are using the FIMI system,
Not the FINAS grant.
not the FINAS grant.
Oh wow.
I was more interested in the FINAS grant because this is where we are supposed to nurture an industry. But because it appears that that is not working as well as we thought it would be. We were going for the short film thing. The grants should be given for short films.
And I love short films. There's a lot on
Yes.
YouTube that people very
Because there
creative.
is a market for short
There?
film. And to the person who is getting the grant for the short film, is a bit like George Lucas. He made a short film called THX 1138. Short film first, and then later it became a full-fledged film by using the short film that he made. Whiplash, another good film. It began life as a short film. In Korea, there are many, many feature films that began life as short films because it allows you to get an immediate evidence
Of your
about
skill and,
your skill
and the
your-
story.
and that is important for taxpayers' money. I
Okay.
am giving the opportunity for a better way of evaluation because remember,
So why weren't your tenure extended? I mean, I love what you're saying, Dato. I mean, I'm all on board. Why weren't you?
well, I could only say that maybe because of the misunderstanding,
I see.
a different message may have gone up. Like for instance,
This guy is rocking the boat.
rocking the boat or over reform. Although what I was thinking was not so much to disturb the landscape, but to actually create a bigger pie.
Okay.
You know, we want a bigger pie, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Someone wants to make a film. I would always say, why is your script such that it can only be understood by Malaysians?
Why not abroad?
Can
yeah?
you do something that even somebody in Finland can understand? That is the message. And that's why I have always been pushing for a counseling environment in FINAS. Counseling. Meaning
Which doesn't exist now?
existed during my time in 2015. And even when I was chairman, I was basically a counselor
Okay.
in a direct way. It's not that the FINAS staff doesn't want to meet people. They do. But they don't have the time because you are bogged down in operational things. Operational. I can relate this directly to MDEC. When we were building up the animation industry, the operational part is the operational part, meaning we don't have to think about what happens when an animator has an accident and we need to worry about his welfare. We care, but another entity will
You
be
mean in
handling
FINAS
it.
you had to?
Well, I mean, FINAS is technically the entity that the whole industry depends on,
Okay.
even for welfare.
Oh,
Remember during COVID?
yes.
FINAS was put in a position where you have got to save the people who were not working during
Okay, the
that-
MCO and
that
all that,
took
yeah,
place,
lockdown.
which
yeah.
is not a problem. Well, what I'm saying is that we are not questioning that role. All we are saying is that that role can be done by a foundation which we will support. FINAS on its own is about the development of the industry. So it's better ways of making sure there are more jobs, more projects, so that everyone can be employed, right? I have been asked this before. Oh, create employment. Yes. If I can make sure 20 projects, 30 projects that are done the right way, we can create the jobs so that nobody in the industry will feel left out.
But on that note, Dato, I mean, we've seen many instances of films done by Malaysians, not funded by FINAS, not given the initial support by FINAS, goes out, does very well, and then comes back, and then FINAS wants their logo on it. So is this a case of FINAS not having the eye to spot potential? Is it an internal bias?
If you want to make a film, it means that you have the film in your head, in your heart. But if you are trying to make money out of the production and not the product, please go somewhere else.
But it happens a lot.
Because especially in the digital environment today, almost anyone, just like Tony Fernandez with Anyone Can Fly, now anyone can make a film. Anyone.
Yeah.
You just take a digital camera. I mean, you can use the
iPhone.
iPhone.
Yeah.
So you see, when we talk about the tools are now available to a lot of people. But that doesn't mean that you can make good films, or at least the way I see it, the kind of films that require support from.
That goes to the skill building that you were
Yes,
pushing.
that's connected to the skill building. Like what I was doing during my time. Okay, a little bit of blowing my own trumpet. If you have attended a script writing course organized by FINAS or even stuntmen at that time, I remember, or director of photography. Remember, we brought in the American Society of Cinematographers here. This database will be the basis by which you apply for support grants,
Okay.
so that we don't open up and take every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
I see. Only
There's
those who are
always to be
interested to
someone
develop themselves.
who have attended our workshop for 3 days,
Okay.
which the training department has handled. So they've come up with scripts. Let's focus on that. And then we can even go one step further. Before the scripts are assumed to be ready for film, put them into one more phase, the lab. And we've got a good relationship with my lab, with Jogja, with Busan. We can still use that. And I'm happy to say that that's what the current management is looking at right now. Because there is a script development grant now where you could apply and you could do your script or adaptation, if you wish, from a book. Talking about that, I've always said books are the best, what you call pre-scripts of all.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And when you make the film, you already have the readers as your potential audience.
Hint, hint, guys.
That's right. And, and the other thing...
Leverage on that.
That's right. And the other thing I've always been encouraging is that, how about Malaysia making a version of the greatest novel ever written in Vietnam? Immediately, I have 2 countries to sell.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm making a Malaysian version.
Yeah.
And talking about this, the other thing we were trying to introduce into FINAS at that time was the fact that don't think only about a Malaysian market. Move out. The tradition has always been Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, or Indonesia to a certain extent. But I do know that even Indonesia is a tough market now.
Yeah, they are producing a lot of movies.
So that's why at the recent ASEAN thing, okay, one of the last things I did before I finished my term was to suggest at that time, and I think they are looking at it now, hopefully, that we form a common market with ASEAN countries in terms of making films, TV series, music, and all that. So that, for example, Justin wants to make his next movie. Don't just depend 100% on FINAS. He could actually pitch it to somebody in Vietnam, an investor in Vietnam, or a theatrical chain. And then guess what? He could even use an actress from Cambodia.
Then it creates this sort of regional...
Yes, an ASEAN thing. Because in Europe, no one country does the film on their own. You see a French production, and then the director could be an Italian.
Yeah.
The actress could be Polish,
Yeah.
German. And once when that film is ready, all these countries are ready to accept because they have their component, their part in the film.
I don't remember the issues of Ola Bola and Jagat, which were placed in the best film non-Bahasa Malaysia categories, right? Is even till today, if we are talking about a global marketplace, we want movies to compete on different... I myself today on Netflix watch Thai movies, Vietnamese movies, French movies. I've never seen this before, but I'm doing it now. My family does it. Is language and race still should be in our criteria?
Well, I got into a bit of a hot water in 2015 when the first time they wanted to introduce best film for FFM. And I think now they've resolved it by not having that category called best Malaysian film, not in Bahasa Malaysia. So in other words, at that time, and it was very funny actually, if I have a time machine, I'd probably be able to handle it differently. But it went something like this. The best film at FFM must be a film in BM, best film. And the best Malaysian film, the other category is for any. But even within the community, there were people who were pro and against it. So by the time I left, the understanding with some leaders in the government and also in the film community was that there should only be a best film. We shouldn't be distinguishing it between the dialogue, because the origins of film have always been silent. Because cinema is not so much about the dialogue, but it's about what is being shown.
Yeah.
So the creativity process is all about that. Anyway, that was a good compromise. But today, if you will notice, FFM has more non-BM films also inside. The best films have also been reorganized. I think this year what is basically an indie film got the best film, right, Baba?
Yeah, yeah.
And more and more films are being submitted for the Oscars, which are off the beaten path kind of thing. Pavane this year, and Tiger Stripes the year before, and can't remember last year. But the independents are now coming in because finally, I think this is something that I was hoping, that a distinction is being made between two types of cinema that Malaysia should be focused on. One is the independent that you mentioned.
And so that means you are saying move away from this language and race and focus on those categories, independent and...
Yes.
Okay.
Because we have been ingrained into what we call a very synthetic environment. Now, what is the real environment? The real environment is where Bahasa Malaysia is our
Yeah, we all know
national
about
language.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter actually
So
what language.
I think Prabhat Sapu and all that have all done that balance. I think even recent films too.
No, because what surprised me is that if you look at India, for example, right, you see a change in the way the dialogue is in the movies. So nowadays, for example, if you watch a Tamil movie, you will find Malayalam in it, you will find different languages in it because they want to cater to the entire country. They're not,
Yes.
despite their population being 1 billion. We, on the other, I don't know why we can't do that. Like we can't have a Sabahan lingo inside. We can't have, to make it truly Malaysian and everyone can enjoy it. Right. Commercially it makes sense. I don't understand why we don't do it.
Well, I hear you. I mean, we have been trying to find the best way to address this.
Okay.
And of late, I mean, if you look at a film like Nina Vau, for instance, is a Sabahan film. And what's the other one? The Botol Dalam Syurga, something, I've forgotten.
Okay.
But the word Botol is there. Good film. Coming out from Sabah. And I'm glad that it's coming out from Sabah and Sarawak because we were doing our part to plant the seeds there.
Okay.
Way back in 2008, 2010. Even at that time, when I wasn't involved in FINAS yet. But we were doing it through animation.
Okay.
Anyway, what we're trying to say is that they didn't continue on with that best Malaysian film, not in Bahasa Malaysia and all that. It is still a best film category. And more of the producers are beginning to understand that because BM Bahasa Malaysia is still the foreign language, the best film can balance between what we call Malaysiana. So although
Malaysiana.
Malaysiana meaning the way like how we talk.
Okay.
Some families talk in English. I go back and speak in dialect because I'm from the north. There will be films with that kind of element. So I think the challenge is pure Bahasa Malaysia. That was the misunderstanding or the miscommunication. It's about pure Bahasa Malaysia. Yes, if you make a film about Hang Jebat or Hang Tuah in Old Malacca, yes, chances are you'll probably be using it. But contemporary films would have a mix and match, right? Even in some cases, Machai and blues, for instance, it's all in Tamil, right? But the occasional interface with the Malay, there will be a Malay word. So I think I'm glad that people are beginning to accept that for cinema.
Yeah, it's a nice thing.
But in the very beginning, it was tough, and I remember I had a lot of social media flag on this.
No, interesting you say that because it's hard to find a critic about you online, But one of the critics that said that despite your strong rhetoric about unity, transparency, and global competitiveness, that many of the filmmakers felt that under your leadership things did not change. What do you say to that? Because from what you're saying, yes, you have done so much, but why do you think it's not been translated into them feeling it or seeing it?
Well, it depends on how we define change. If change means you're not getting any more grants because you haven't sorted out your fundamentals, then there's nothing much to say. The problem with Malaysia also is that those who actually benefited don't actually go out to say that. I mean, it's not just for the film industry, it's for everything. I mean, we have a little culture issue that needs to be looked at too. How many people would acknowledge the people responsible for their stature in life? There would always be that teacher who advises you,
Definitely.
someone who tells you. So we are not a very generous in that area of our culture. In fact, all we know is how to criticize, right? And that's why I also understand how PMX, for instance, is trying to do his job. He has to juggle many things,
Yeah.
right? Our Minister for Communication, YB Dato Fahmi, I know he has to juggle many things. The very things that we are discussing today are the very things that they are facing also, but in different levels of focus. And I think Dato Hans and Dato Asme are also facing this. But most importantly is that we should know how much of these changes that can be taken place right now without upsetting a lot of people. When they say no changes, the Malaysian answer for no change means it's personal. It's a change for them, not for the industry.
That is so true.
Right. So I know there were critics. And I've been accused of being, you see, he likes European films. This guy studied overseas, so his mind is not on here. No. The point is, I'm trying to say, until today, I could watch the Apu trilogy by Satyajit Ray, and I understand India better than any of the Bollywood stuff. So why can't we do films like that? Back to basics. Are we going to talk about the films not making money? I mean, if Satyajit Ray or Yasujiro Ozo are Malaysians, they want to make a film where it's all about the cultural side of things. See, I see it as no difference from you want to build a statue of Tunku Abdul Rahman right smack in the middle of Dataran Merdeka, costing 1 million. People will ask, what is this statue for? ROI? No. That statue is
Legacy.
legacy. 50 years from now, grandchildren, our great-grandchildren can see, that's the first prime minister, which is also another issue which I like to bring up. There was a little survey done that day on social media. They brought the photo of Tunku Abdul Rahman, our first prime minister, and that lady from Blackpink.
Okay.
Everybody knew the lady from Blackpink. And this, we are talking about the under 18s, the generation
Z. I think so. Yeah.
They don't even know who Tunku Abdul Rahman is. What is the problem there? If you give that problem to somebody like me while I was in FINAS, the next round of films and all that, I would go for targeted messages. It can be a crime film, it can be a murder story, but I would tell the filmmakers, be creative enough to insert all these elements in. You see, you can watch a European film. If the setting is 1968, no matter how or what the film is, they could still refer to the student riots of 1968. Why? Because that changed the whole French, how shall we say, democratic system. Just like in America, it could be a love story, but Vietnam War will be put in to remind, somewhere you see a veteran,
Have you, in your experience when you're in FINAS, are script writers, are the directors daring enough in terms of story? Because like what you're saying can be so easily solved by a very nice, well done biopic.
Well, that's where the counseling comes in. I think what Malaysia has happened here is that a lot of people, a lot of good people, writers, directors, and all that, they are not sure the hours that they put, the hours of their short lives being put into projects, whether it will see the light of day, because they're not sure. So everyone prefers to be direct. And our culture is such that you want to be direct as well. Where is that narrative portion? This is the link with education that I wanted to touch on. Is poetry still in primary school now?
I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I'm the product of the 60s. I have to memorize poetry at standard 4.
English poetry.
Yes, English poetry and Malay poetry.
Wow.
At that time, we were asking, apa lah nak kena memorize all these things? Then later, secondary school, you know why? As you work, you know why. It gives you a sense of what I call the artistic feel. Even if I become an engineer, or even if I become a construction worker. So it means that the creative side is inside everybody. That is why, for instance, in some countries, books are still being held with high esteem. Read books. And museums. People would go to museums. You see, all these are connected. The creative environment that produces a writer that can look beyond the shores is dependent on the creative environment that we have here. Why is it that Tash Orr had to write a book in England? You think what everybody talks about James Wan? If James Wan had remained in Malaysia, you think what would have happened? You come up with a script for Saw and try to pitch it?
You would have rejected it, let's be honest.
Well, I wouldn't reject it.
You would have said, get out of here, buddy.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying is that
Yeah,
the
it wouldn't be
environment,
acceptable.
well, I think you know, right? I mean, okay, like we can laugh at this, but that is an environment. And if the education system has not put you into this, I so call it the artistic mode, then it is very difficult for you to hear somebody else who comes up with something that's out of the box.
You won't have a sort of appreciation for it, for the creativity, for the pushing the envelope
Correct.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Look, I mean, still, that's what I meant by the 2%. It is the 2% who are talking about films, art galleries, music, yes, and talking about music. Until today, I have friends who were making comments on royalties and all this kind of stuff, right? But how many trips have we made to England to find out how the royalties for the children of George Harrison can still be getting the money even 50 years from now? The system is already there. So what is causing the blockage, in my humble view, is the fact that we approach things in a slightly more non-value adding way.
What does that mean, Dato?
It means that more personal.
Oh, it's about me.
Yes, it's about you rather than about everything else. It's a bit like, you know, like everybody here don't want to clear the forest. But once the forest is cleared, everybody wants to have a piece of the action. But not while the forest is being cleared. So everyone who made the comment about nothing can be seen was because I was clearing the forest. I looked at this film industry and connected it with the TV industry and connected it with the music industry, with the arts in general, and say, hey, there's a lot of bushes and undergrowth that have somehow sprouted out because they were all under different layers of management or overseeing. Remember, different ministries. So maybe it's high time to clear the forest.
Now, I want to bring this to this because you had so many good ideas. You were really doing some amazing things, Dato. Do you think perhaps you had too little time? It's 2 years. Come on,
Yes.
I mean,
It's really too little time. And because I'm still dealing with the 98% rather than the 2%. When I say I'm dealing with the 98%, it's all about, well, maybe...
ROI and
Yes, ROI and all that.
commercial sense.
Yes.
And all that.
To get this thing off the ground, it has to be seen, one, from the economics perspective, the ecosystem. Secondly, it is how the government support should be channeled into the right pockets, I would call it. Right pockets.
Are we talking about metaphorical pockets or actual pockets?
I mean, I'm not trying to be metaphorical here, but in the right baskets. Maybe
Okay.
that's a better word. The right baskets. So it is about something like this. You have already done your part and you need support. I would love, and I have actually met the kind of who would come in, and they have already secured 50% of the funding.
Okay.
And they require only the balance. See, it's a no-brainer. They come to FINAS to support, and we give the support. There's no need to ask too many questions. They've already got their 50%. So that's one way of looking at it, although I'm not saying it's perfect, but that's the best way to look at it. Secondly is when we have already invested money into their training and all that, and now we should bring them to the next step to make the films. So grants go into that category. Or maybe there are cases also where I already made my film, but I do not know how to sell it. Because FINAS is supposed to be the expert. And that's what I was trying to push. And maybe that's why a lot of people say nothing much was done. Because I was going through all those behind the camera things. It's like, we cannot be generalists. This is about an industry development specialist. And if you're not a specialist, I was ready to go into a training session even for the staff. Expose them. Archives. I remember a plan to send a few FINAS staff who was involved in archive to France to be with an agency they call INA, which is in charge of the archives, which I think is one of the best. And that also includes British Pathé with the British Film Institute in England. Then I couldn't get the budget. So you see, even that is a problem on its own. All I wanted to do was to bring FINAS up to a specialized
You
level.
wanted to expose your staff.
Yes. Get the younger staff, especially the one who will be there until they are 60. Remember? That's the setup in FINAS. People like us, 2 years, 3 years, out. But the majority, the staff that are implementing, they will be there until they are 60. So why not at an early stage bring them to all these places? That's what we used to do in MDEC too. We train our staff.
It's interesting because when you talk about MDEC and the success you had at MDEC, I think we spoke about this off camera. And as you mentioned, I think the problem here is that with MDEC, it was from scratch. So you could set the tone.
Yes.
Whereas in FINAS, it seems to be there is this culture of complacency.
Correct. It's about the industry culture. Like I said, it's very difficult to say which is right, which is not right. But it's a bit like when people are comfortable in a certain mode. And that is the answer, the know-all, be-all. Anything else that comes in will have to be justified maybe 10 times, 20 times. So it takes a lot more effort. And the 2 years there didn't help either because it's all about engagement. So finally, if I could just sort of say what could be the main issues here, is for as long as you see the government is there to pay for you to make your films, that mentality is the one that's preventing you from moving forward. Because at the end of the day, if I open up a restaurant, whether I succeed or I fail depends on how much I put into the restaurant. And that is not just about the income, investment.
A lot of things.
It's about the food. It's about how I attract my client. It's about the quality of my service with a smile, that kind of thing. So you see, whenever we talk about the film industry especially, and maybe arts industry in general, we're only talking about the visible issues. Why aren't we producing more good films? Well, that's maybe because the definition of good has been defined for you. Whereas we are saying, if your film can't sell in, let's say, in Kazakhstan, that means there's no market. And why are you happy? Okay, here is a more general sort of straight line comment. How filmmakers in Malaysia, knowing that your films only last 3 or 4 days in the cinema, despite the wajib tayang, despite maybe the grants you have received, despite all the support that FINAS is giving you, when you sit down and ask,
is this the right career for me?
Is this the right film? The most unfortunate thing is that I've met people here who do not dare to admit that the films that they have made do not make the cut.
They don't want to admit it.
Well, to them, it's like, I have made something and I have an audience for it, and that's it. It's not about lasting. It's not about the Apu trilogy kind of thing, where 100 years from now, not only Indians, but the rest of the world will be watching it. Or let's take some of the other great classics from Japan. I don't have to look at Hollywood. Japan, or even Indonesia, they have their own classic. P. Ramlee would still be seen in this country 100 years from now. Yes, your great-great-grandchildren will still be watching it. So, partly the challenge that we have.
All right. So, guys, that was Datuk Kamil Othman. Thank you so much, Dato, for doing this. I loved hearing your ideas. I think I've read about them and I loved it. It was superb. I think we want to see them back and perhaps maybe see you back at FINAS doing what you do best, which is blow up the lids of Malaysian cinema and bring it globally. So thank you again, Dato. All the best to you.
Most welcome.
So guys, it was Datuk Kamil Othman. Please share in the comments what your thought about what he said about his ideas for Malaysian cinema. I sure loved it. Let's hear what you have to say. And stay tuned. We have more guests coming up. We'll see you soon, guys. As always, like, share, subscribe.